Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Today we're running the manifest trains that run fully across the layout from the east to the west. We have one that starts in Mineola and runs all the way to McKinney. And we have another one that starts in McKinney and runs all the way east to Mineola. So you may want to back up in the video here in a little bit and go check out those switch lists ahead up. What those switch lists are telling you is the amount of cars and which specific cars we're picking up in Mineola for the westbound manifest, which is the first one working today. And then the second switch list, which is up there for a shorter period of time, is explaining to you or showing you the cars that we're going to be dropping off in Kingston Yard. So these manifest trains, they build on the east and west end of the layout around the same time of the operating session. And they're designed to head across the layout, and they work in Kingston Yard. They do a block swap, so they drop some cars off, they pick up some new cars, and this is where they have a meet. So they ideally would meet in Kingston Yard at around the same time. And Kingston Yard has a special set of tracks designed just for these trains. These are the only two trains that take cars completely across the layout. You can almost consider it an east-west express. But right now, we are currently working the Mineola warehouse. That's why we have these two box cars set off to the side that we've picked up. And we put the covered hopper back because we're not working the bulk transload today. The next move for us is we're going to go ahead and get to the west end of Mineola Yard and start pulling some tracks. So the way that you build the westbound manifest train is you look at your switch list and you see which cars you need to pick up. And then you go pull entire tracks from the yard at once, and then that's how you start breaking down and pulling out the cars that you need. We don't like to cherry pick. That's slow and inefficient, so we're not going to go into the track and just start picking out individual cars. What we do is we pull the whole track. Any car that we're not taking, we put back on the track where we got it, and any car that we are taking, we put onto a different track. The one exception to this are the cars that we have to drop off in Kingston Yard. What we like to do is we like to grab those cars and put them off even on another track to the side, so that when we build the train, we can put those cars at the front. So if you want to go back and double check, the second switch list that popped up earlier shows you the cars that we're going to be setting out in Kingston. So those cars, if you watch closely, will be the ones that will be getting set off to the side. Sometimes track 2 gets overflown. There's too many cars on it, which is where we are right now. And so sometimes the overflow cars get dumped off on the siding way out there, kind of on the back left. So here in a little bit, you'll actually see us head over to that siding to pick up that tank car way back there because it's going with us today. But this is going to be a series of mixed cuts where we're working different tracks and getting different cars together. And quite honestly, the only cars that matter in a particular order are the cars that are going to be going to Kingston. And while all this is happening, we have an operator who would be building the eastbound train over in McKinney. So here in a little bit, we will cut over there and show that train as well. But sit back and enjoy some cuts as we work this train in Mineola Yard. While building this train, it is pretty important that you make sure to keep things in order in the yard and try your best to use only open tracks. If you start mixing up the cars you're trying to take with the cars that are staying, it can get really confusing and cause you to waste a lot of time while you try to figure out which cars are going and which cars are staying. So it's okay if you, as the operator, when you're running this train yourself on the North Texas Beltline, it's okay if you decide that you want to build your train on the main or the siding, especially on the main. During this time, there aren't really any other trains that need to use the main on the east end of the layout, so it's all yours if you need it. I typically try to build it in the yard just because that's how I like to do it, but that's not a requirement per se. This whole end of the railroad is yours. There's only ever 3 trains that use this yard. We have the Union Pacific interchange that comes in, we have the Emory turn that runs, and then we have this manifest train. And so you have plenty of time to work the yard here on the west end. No one bugs you because the other 2 trains would have already run by this point. So the yard is yours pretty much for the rest of the day. And then the eastbound manifest will arrive toward the evening, and then the yard is theirs for the rest of the night until the next morning when it starts all over again. So more or less, Mineola only ever sees 4 trains, 3 that do work, and a 4th one that just kind of gets broken down and sorted. So here we are heading back to that siding like we mentioned earlier to grab that tank car. And just a quick review in Mineola Yard, all the cars on the track to the left, that's track 0. Those are cars that are only bound for the Emory turn. Cars on track 1, which is where we're going right now, are cars reserved for us to take. And then track 2 is where the Union Pacific interchange sets out cars, which we usually end up taking all those cars. And then track 3 is where we set out cars for the Union Pacific train to take next time. So when we leave Mineola today, you'll see us leave a few cars on track 3 and take several as well. So we're going to go ahead and get ready to switch over to McKinney now. Here we are. We're going to start working the eastbound manifest. And if you check the switch list here, you can see all the cars we're going to be taking with us. The second switch list that's going to pop up is going to show you all the cars that we are going to be setting out in Kingston Yard when we head east. So the McKinney Yard crew comes in and they start building this train. Most of the cars for this train are picked up either on track 2 or track 3. We don't pick up any cars on track 4 because those are reserved for the Princeton-Farmsville turn. And we don't pick up any cars on track 0, because those are reserved for cars going locally in McKinney. And actually, we also don't usually pick up on track 1 because those are reserved for cars going to the DGNO, which comes into McKinney and then turns around and leaves. So you can see our road power sitting there on the left, waiting for the train to get built. Once again, this is not a job that the road power does in McKinney. McKinney has its own yard crew, so they're the ones who build our train for us. In Mineola, there's not a dedicated yard crew, and so the manifest crew has to build their own train and break it down over there. Since track 2 is usually wide open because that's where the DGNO drops off cars, usually this train is built in track 2. And just like in Mineola, we're going to take all the cars that are going to be bound for Kingston and we're going to put those at the front of our train. So this does make for some pretty creative sorting methods. One nice thing about the manifest trains, these are some of the only trains that routinely get to see auto racks. There just aren't a lot of places on the layout for servicing auto racks, which is kind of staying true to form for this geographical area. The majority of cars are shipped either south of Dallas or into the west side of Fort Worth and a couple of other places, but not really on the northeast side of town. There's not any really major rail hubs for automotive, so we don't really see a lot of auto rack traffic except on these trains as they're getting shuttled across the entire layout, and usually just from one end to the other. Here we are reaching all the way back on track 3 to grab some cars that the DGNO had left a long time ago. And then we have to pull this long cut and start working this cut as well. This is where we start doing some creative switching methods to try to get cars shuffled around and up to the front of the train. So where we are right now is actually the spur that heads off to the McKinney industrial area. And so we do sometimes use that spur just because there's the locomotives that would normally use that spur are currently working this train. So there's no conflicting movements or anything like that. So we do sometimes leave cars over there too. I do personally really enjoy running these trains. I really enjoy running them at the same time. I like having them meet in Kingston Yard. I think it's a lot of fun. When we have multiplayer sessions back in the day and they were actually working, these trains were incredibly fun to do. You would get an operator working on this for a good while, and it would take about an hour and a half to 2 hours to completely run these trains. And it was a lot of fun. And then it got some good traffic going on the layout. Cars were moving, and it really brought it to life. So I really enjoy running these trains. And having now operated this layout for a little over a year, I've learned a lot from it, obviously, but I've noticed too that I have to consider possibly actually making a second round of these for my operation cycle, just because sometimes I get so many cars coming into these McKinney and Mineola yards and they kind of get stranded. And that's really the purpose of these manifest trains, is to I will say those with a keen eye will have noticed that we stuck a little 30-foot tanker between two auto racks. I would assume in real life you're probably not allowed to do that. I would imagine that the coupler action would probably be incredibly damaging. We're going to go ahead and move our road power into position and get ready to head out. We have just under a minute left. Just wanted to take the moment to say thank you all for engaging with the channel. Thank you for all my new subscribers for taking interest and hitting that button. Please don't hesitate if you've been on the edge. Don't hesitate to jump on the bandwagon and button for you as well. Got lots of stuff on the way, and just wanted to say thank you. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps to get the videos out there for people to see. And I don't make anything off this channel. I just do it for fun. So thank you guys for supporting that and taking interest in it. And feel free to engage with me along the way. I would enjoy the conversation. So sit back and relax as we finish putting our train together, and be on the lookout for part 2. When part 2 comes out, you're going to get to see the operations as we move into Kingston and kind of how that works with these trains. And if it comes out to be too long, I'll turn it into a part 3 where we break them down in Mineola and McKinney. But I'll have to double check my footage. I don't know if it's going to be quite that long, so we might be able to close it up with a part 2. But definitely stay tuned. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.